Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Now, before we even start this review, I need to help some of you because you might have the same misconception I did. When I was at Gen Con, I saw Level 7 Omega Protocol, and I just kept walking. Because Z and I played the first Level 7, which came out last year. It was Level 7, I forget what it was called. Level 7 something or other.
Escape?
Escape. Yeah, Level 7 Escape. Yeah. That's right. And it's a cooperative game, which we thought sounded exciting. And it looked exciting. And the theme sounded exciting.
Yeah.
And then the game was just terrible. So I thought this was more of the same. This is not. This is a very completely different game. This is, think, a dungeon crawl in a sense, but it's space. But it's not even a dungeon crawl. It's a team of people, or just one person if you want to play a two-player game, who control a bunch of Marines who are going into an alien base and blowing the snot out of the aliens. And the other person is playing the aliens against one or multiple people.
Yep.
That has potential for sure, but we'll get to our opinions in just a bit. Level 7 Omega Protocol comes with a mission guidebook, and in this book are various missions. And these missions tell you how to set up the objective for each of the missions. It shows the map. You can see here, for example, Mission 2 right here, and I've set up the map just like Mission 2. Now, this book is not as secret as books that are often to this game because the secrecy of this game involves the person who's running the aliens to place stacks of cards in each room. And they can pick the rooms that they put these stacks of cards in. In this scenario, the Marines are starting here. They're looking for an objective. In this instance, the objective is a control panel. And the control panel, see this one here, has a clear card with it so that you don't, the Marines don't know which stack I put it in. This one here has a control panel. When the Marines will go into a room, by the way, this game has some neat mechanisms where there's doors all over the board, and when you turn it over, perhaps the door is unlocked and you're fine. You just go through the door. But there are some doors on the board that might be jammed or locked or something like that. And so when the Marines get into a room, you'll turn over the cards that are in that room. So like, for example, if I turned over this room, I would look at the bottom. There's priorities on this, priority 2, priority 3. The priority 2 thing happens first, so we see that there's a vent in that room. And then a recon patrol will show up. So some of the different aliens will show up in that room, and I'll place those aliens in the room, and you have to fight those aliens, or they're gonna come after you. And sometimes it will bring out all different things. A couple of the rooms might have poison gas. And when that shows up, you'll put a cloud of poison gas in the room that will hurt Marines when they go through it. So Marines are going to be taking turns moving around this board. I just wanted to show you a little bit about how the board looked. There's these spots here where Marines can investigate to draw investigate cards, which are usually some minor weapons and supplies that they might find as they go by, med packs and things like that. Players is going to take each of the players who's not the alien player. One player is going to play the aliens. That person's the Overlord. The other ones are going to take Marines, and you can pick. You can have five players each playing a Marine. You can have 2 players each playing 2 Marines. 3 players each playing 1 Marine, etc. When you pick these guys, each one, this is the reconnaissance specialist. They have a weapon here, and we'll take a closer look at weapons later on. But that means when he shoots this weapon, he gets a red die and 3 black dice, and it has a range of 5. He also has a hand-to-hand combat weapon, 2 red dice and 2 black dice. This is his hit points up here, his intelligence, and his strength. Those are some stats that each player has. And with the reconnaissance specialist, the team leader, the rifleman, the countermeasures specialist, and the heavy support specialist. Now, each of these guys has different abilities, a different gun. You can see the heavy support specialist here has a really good gun compared to the others. But you can also customize them further. At the beginning of the game, you're going to draw kit cards. Well, you're going to look through a deck and you can pick these kit cards. So I might say, ooh, I want some optical upgrades, and that costs 1. You have 6 points to build, and so I can take these optical upgrades, but each character also has a specific set of kit cards for that character. So the heavy weapon specialist here might want strafing fire, and he might want an advanced armor upgrade, which is 2 points. So he has 2, 3, 4, 5. He can take one more, so he takes napalm grenades. So those are the different ones. But in another scenario, maybe he'll take other cards. And so the kit cards allow you to customize your character before you begin the game. Now, during the course of the game, players are going to, one person's the team leader, which is, of course, going to be the team leader if he's in the game. And that player is going to hand out initiative cards for the Marines to go. Each of the Marines is then going to pick a stance. So each of the Marines has 3 different stances. So the Rifleman has prone, cautious advance, and double time. Now, each of these gives you a possible special ability. For example, when you're prone, you add 2 red dice to each attack. So this guy gets a much better attack when he's prone, and he can re-roll up the 2 dice from each attack that he makes. So he's very good at shooting when he's prone. However, you'll notice that his movement here is 1. His defense against people shooting at him is 5. His defense against people who are attacking him in melee is 2. So he's good at, it's hard for people to shoot him when he's laying down. He can move very slowly, and he can, but if you come up and attack him, it's very easy to. While if he has double time, he doesn't get those cool benefits of shooting, but he can move faster, not as good against shooting, but better against melee. And then this cautious advance, kind of a halfway in between. And each person has something very different. They all don't have the exact same. For example, the heavy guy doesn't have prone. He has braced. And he also has cautious advance, and then he has hustle. And each of these players can play. Now, at the bottom of these, there's max adrenaline. And that's because on your turn, you can take different actions, and these actions are going to cost you adrenaline, but you can only take so much adrenaline per turn based on the different cards that you've taken. So, if, for example, my Rifleman takes prone here, he can take 5 adrenaline. Moving on the board, your maximum movement costs you an adrenaline. Shooting at somebody or fighting somebody costs you 2 adrenaline. Many of the cards that you have cost adrenaline to take. Healing someone next to you or healing yourself, if you've taken some hit points, costs adrenaline. But you can never go above the amount of adrenaline you have unless you have a special ability that allows that. And so players are going to be using this adrenaline to do different actions on the board. Here is the reason that adrenaline matters in this game. The Overseer is going to get what is called a dashboard. It's going to be built of different things. The dashboard is different for each scenario. This is only 4. There are tons and tons that you can have, and you'll probably have a much bigger one than 4. You'll probably have like 9 different ones to pick from. I just want to show a little bit closer here for this. At the beginning of each turn, players are going to give all the adrenaline that they use that turn to the Overseer. And on his turn, after the Marines go, he is going to use this adrenaline to do different things in here. For example, if I want to bring out a new blaster character and an evil alien, it costs me 6 adrenaline to do so. So I can pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I can put 6 in this thing, and I can bring out an enemy blaster. Each turn, you'll notice that there's that light green number is 2. 2 of these are returned to the bank. And so after 3 turns, I will be able to bring out another enemy blaster. So these different places that I have, some of them let me spawn creatures. This one lets me do an ambush. This one here lets me bring in some clone reinforcements. Over here I can make a cave-in, that's possible. And so there's all different things. There's even things like this that hasten. I can pay for this one to refresh another dashboard ability once. This one here I can make a surprise attack. Now, another thing here, you'll notice there's a committed number at the bottom. That basically lets you do that ability even if it's full. For example, to make a interrupt on the Marine's turn, I can drop in 4 adrenaline and make an interrupt attack. It's going to take 2 turns for that to clear because only 2 comes out each turn. But I could pay 6 if I want to ignore that and do another interrupt attack. It's expensive, but it gives the Overseer lots of options. So on his turn, the Overseer is going to have to figure out how to use the adrenaline, and the players are going to have to be careful that they don't give him too much adrenaline, because the more adrenaline the Overseer has, the more things he can spawn and the more things he can do. He also uses adrenaline to activate creatures on the board and to attack with them. There's all sorts of different aliens in the game. They have different stats just like the Marines do. They have hit points. They have this is how much adrenaline it takes to activate them. They have different defenses here. It's very interesting here. The handler, if you do I'll talk about this in a second, but there's a possibility to do extra damage, and you can see this guy has really nasty claws because the red dice are better than the black dice. And so there's different monsters that you will be coming across, and these monsters are done with these plastic miniatures. It's soft plastic, and you can see here it's bent. This can be fixed by putting them in warm water, but they are a little bit bent. But the Marines are a little bit harder plastic, and I think the models themselves are very good. Now, when you're shooting at somebody else, you're going to look at your range, and you're going to look at the target you're shooting at. So let's say I'm shooting at that Fear Hunter. I look at that Fear Hunter, and his defense against ranged is a 3/7. So let's say I'm shooting a weapon that gives me 2 red dice and 2 black dice. And so I roll these dice, and I've gotten 5 hits. Now, I need to get 3 hits to hit him, so I've done 1 damage. If I had gotten 7 hits, I would have done 2 damage. So the combat system is very simple. When the aliens attack you, they look at your defense. Let's say your defense is 4, and they roll these dice here. 1, 2, 3, 4. They've hit you, but if they had rolled less than 4, then they would have missed you. So combat is done that way. Now, the Marines will be taking hit points as the game progresses, and when they're downed, other Marines can spend adrenaline to bring them back up. But when you're downed, you will get a special stance card that says downed, which of course means you move slowly, have very low defense, and you can only do move, but somebody else can spend some adrenaline to bring you back. However, there is a time track in the game, and there's also different events that will activate a crisis point. When that crisis point happens, when a Marine dies, they're dead. And also, usually the aliens have all sorts of special abilities. So, to reiterate, each player is going to pick a Marine. They're going to go in and fight against an Overlord player. They have specific mission parameters. Each mission is different. Maybe you need to go recover papers, rescue somebody, kill main bad guy, etc. They need to go and do this without losing a certain number of Marines. Usually if you lose half your Marines, then you're going to lose that mission. Or maybe you need to protect somebody. There's all sorts of other little cool things. There's an extra figure for a technician who you might meet as time goes by. One of the guys has a little droid that he can deploy on the board. That's one of his special abilities. There's a lot of things that I did not mention, but this is just to give you a basic overview of how the game plays. All right, this game is amazing, fantastic, terrific, wonderful.
Splendiferous.
It just makes me want to squee.
Do it.
No. Now listen.
All the way home.
I am so enamored with this game. As if you watch my top 100, you know that one of my favorite games is Descent. Mm-hmm. Yes. And the forerunner of Descent was Doom. Doom was a really cool game that I enjoyed quite a bit. But when I played Descent, I said, wow, this is so much better. This is, and we're not going to go into a compare and contrast with this with Descent. Not very much. But I'm saying it's on the level of Descent. It has very different mechanisms, but I think they're fine. Yep. So, components first. The only flaw I have is that some of the models are bent.
Right, they're really flimsy. The plastic is very flimsy. The model itself is cool. The guys.
Well, the Marines are especially good.
The same plastic that was used in the original Battlelore set, because I remember having the same problem.
Right, they bend over, the base is warped.
Looked like they needed to have a V8 or stand-up, that type of thing. You had to put them in warm water, then straighten them back out, let them dry, and all this other kind of stuff. You're going to have to do the same thing here if it makes that big of a difference.
Right. The boards, the artwork on everything looks really neat. I like that part of it. I think the boards are not the thickest tiles ever, but they're perfectly functional.
Yeah. Right.
Everything else is good. Just really the plastic would be the only complaint as far as components go. The look of the game is great. The game has a really great sci-fi feel to it. Yeah. And, it puts you there.
My favorite thing about this game, I think the coolest idea is that whole Well, okay, the stance is one thing. No, I like the adrenaline idea.
The more you do as the good guys, the more the bad guys get to do to you.
And
the more you move around, the more actions you take.
Right.
The more.
The only thing I'm not thrilled about that is the fact that it's called adrenaline doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe like you're making noise or whatever.
No. It's they're feeding off your fear and your adrenaline. That's basically the idea. But it's not just that. It's that the Overlord in this game has so many options.
Yeah.
So many things that you can do. You can set the same scenario up multiple times, play differently, try completely different things, interrupt. And it's instead of having handfuls of cards, it's all right there on that board.
Yeah.
You can move around. The refresh mechanic is just cool.
Yeah.
It's neat. It reminds me of when you play like an RPG, a video game RPG. It's the same idea as a cooldown timer, where you trigger something off, and then you have to wait for that thing to cool down, and it's the same thing. You're removing the bits until it's empty, and then you can fire it off again. Yep. So really cool idea.
Now you mentioned the stance cards.
Yeah, the stance cards I thought was really cool because you could choose whether or not you were going to make a cautious advance or a reckless advance.
Right, you can just book it, but you're vulnerable.
Right, and then you could kind of hunker down and wait for those guys to pop their heads out and then pick them off, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that because that put a different level. You didn't feel like, because sometimes on dungeon crawls like Descent, you can kind of get gamey. I'm going to go click, 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 and I'm going to wait right here in this corner that I know nobody. But it's not really like that in this game.
Right.
It's all determined by your posture almost. And if you're running, it's going to be harder to hit you, so your defense is going to be better.
Right, and those stance cards, what they do is they don't make you have to remember any modifiers.
Right.
Normally be like, okay, I'm going to shoot at you, but okay, let's see, you're running, it's +1. No, just look at your stance card.
Right.
That's what you have.
Great.
And also the kit thing, where you can build your character before the game.
Oh, excellent.
That's...
Yeah.
Lots going on there. Really good.
And you felt like the characters were very different.
Absolutely.
Especially once you throw in those kit cards. I'm my own guy. At that point, I'm the only one carrying this. I can deploy the turret. I can, I got my own special weapon. It's great.
Napalm.
I think my favorite thing, and this sort of encompasses everything we're talking about here, is how cinematic this game feels.
There you go.
The game feels like you're in an alien movie and they're coming at you and you're just blasting the walls. It puts you there.
Coming out of the vents.
Coming out of the vents, you are, you're slowly walking around. They come at you, blow the vent away, or you're running and they're chasing you down. It's just, you have the images play out in your head as you play. It's a movie in a box.
Yeah. You know what? What you said is a good point. It's more of a movie than it is a video game. In a video game, you start with a weak gun, and you go around like, ooh, a better gun. No, that's not real life. You're going into the thing, you're taking your best stuff now.
Yep.
And that's how this feels. That's a better way to do it sometimes.
I think so, too. Yeah, I mean, you already have your weapon of choice. You got off the ship with it.
Right.
You don't have to go try to find a better gun than what you have. You have...
I mean, you're walking into a facility, which like a scientific facility, you're not going to find a better gun in there,
Right.
And I think as a follow-up to the original game, which again was not very good, it makes thematic sense that where they had the fallout in there, everything went down, everything went haywire, and these guys show up to get like the mop-up crew, you know what I mean? And that's great, because you feel like one of the mop-up guys. Okay, we're cleaning house, Right. And that's a great feeling to have in a game. That was one of the big issues with the first one is you felt underpowered. You felt like a weakling.
You were.
You are a bad dude.
And another thing I like is also a lot of problems with these dungeon maps is you know where everything is. You can see the layout.
Right.
But this one does a really good job at that because you know the layout, but you don't know the layout that well.
You don't know
so you can go to a room and it could change.
You don't know what's around the corner.
You don't know what's in that room, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, they knew the layout, but let's say first mission, you know the layout, but you don't know where the office is.
Right.
So you're hunting for that office. It's a good one. So for me, this is slam dunk, automatically in my collection. I guarantee you to my top 100. That's how much I like it. I'm giving this one 3 alien thumbs up. I love it. I love almost everything about it. I cannot wait to play expansions for it, to play through all the missions. I want to paint the models for it. It is just.
Oh, you're not allowed to paint the models.
I want to get the models for it, paint it.
There you go.
So for me, easy. Love it.
I am completely 100% in with Tom on this one. I'm going to give this 2 chink napalm grenades. Have fun, suckers!
Oh, I better get my review in here quick. Count me down. I am I'm the smallest fan of dungeon crawlers here. These
Kind
guys
of on our size.
These guys
Thanks a lot.
they are bigger fans of the dungeon crawl style games
Yes.
than me. I like a few. I like the ones that tend to be shorter, tend to be simpler. The one I like, I don't think you guys like, is Claustrophobia, for example. I really like that one. This, to me, hit a similar vein. It's tight enough where you're in the action right away. You don't have to deal with ridiculous amounts of statistics, things like that. And it puts you in some action right away. And it has a good feel to it. And the two sides can go at it no holds barred.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know?
I like as the Overlord when I
You just go at each other, you know? So for me, 2 disturbing alien claws up.
All right, so that's level 7 Omega Protocol. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
And I'm Icepick.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.